We're continuing our series of the 12 principles and values of a successful Krishna-conscious Grihastha life.
We accept our partner as he or she is, despite their flaws. It doesn't mean that we don't work on our flaws, that we don't try to be a better person, but we do need to accept them for who they are. And that actually shows that we're committed to them as they are. So we need to always let me see. Commitment's actually a verb because it implies actions we take on a daily, moment-to-moment basis to let our partner know that we're there for them, that the decisions that we make, we're keeping them in mind. So we can see that when we choose to act with commitment, we also choose to resist temptation to betray our partner. We choose to act positively to create trust and safety in our relationships by turning towards a person when there's difficulty, not by turning away, to work out our differences. Commitment's also shown by expressing gratitude and by nurturing and focusing on what we do have with the partner instead of what we don't have. And commitment also means that we don't gossip or trash our partner to others.
There's different aspects of commitment. So there's commitment of affection, the commitment of love. There's commitment of shared activity. And there's also a commitment sometimes referred to as a constraint commitment. So example of that is that we take vows when we enter into marriage. And so that sometimes is referred to as a constraint commitment. So just like when you ride in your car, you put on a seatbelt. And if there's some sudden stop or serious accident, you will be constrained by that seatbelt to keep you from launching out of your car. So in the same way, we make these vows in marriage, constraint commitment, because sometimes marriage, let me rephrase that. In all marriages, there are going to be challenges and obstacles and times when it may be difficult to work things out. And at those moments, you can actually draw on the strength of that constraint commitment, that we made this vow together in the temple or church, before our families, before the altar, before the sacred deities, in Vaishnavism, before the sacred fire. We made that very important, powerful vow. And at those times in life, when we face those challenges, we can draw upon the strength of that vow, of that commitment, and that enables us to acquire the strength to cross over those difficulties. And Srila Prabhupada, he described that in spiritual life, that this commitment and dedication to the order of the spiritual master was the active principle of spiritual life. And he said that one will directly see Krishna in the order of the spiritual master. So in Vaishnavism, our marriage vows are also a service to Krishna and a service to our spiritual master. And if we can see that vow in that light, in connection with Krishna, in connection with Srila Prabhupada, that is going to help bring us to Krishna. So very important to understand the value of that commitment of marriage in terms of a constraint commitment. Constraint commitment could also be compared to Like we live in Sarnaugati, 3-hour drive from Vancouver. And on that drive, it's a mountain highway, and there's many cliffs on the side of the road. If you were to go over the cliff, your car would go down several hundred feet, be catastrophic. So they have big concrete guardrails. So that's also a constraint commitment. So when I drive to Vancouver, I don't drive my car scraping against all the guardrails. I keep it on highway. So in the same way in our marriages, we don't want to continually be gritting our teeth and relying on this constraint commitment, but we want to have that commitment and dedication to have healthy marriages and to do the work that it takes to develop warm, loving, respectful relationships.
So that does take a commitment, and it does take practice, and it also takes a positive mindset. We want to practice appreciation, thinking of the other person, looking after their needs, seeing how we can help. What can we do to make them happy? That's a big part of the commitment. It's not just some dry boundary, but we actually have to put the work in to be there for another person. And that's actually dedication, that I'm dedicated to making this work no matter what. And work means that it should be a joyful experience.
And sometimes devotees become a little fearful of addressing the challenges they face in their marriage. We were just discussing before we started how sometimes, even we did that at one point in our marriages. We just thought we would just kind of avoid dealing with challenges, but that actually doesn't work. It's like sweeping things under the carpet. And one thing that was very helpful for us in our relationship was to just learn how to understand each other and respectfully listen, even though we might disagree on some things, that if you understand your partner, you can even agree to disagree and still love each other. So that's a part of the work, and that's a part of the commitment required. So that commitment, it manifests in that mutual understanding that we make this commitment to love and serve each other, and that also means to understand each other. And generally, couples have difficulty in communicating, and it's very important that couples learn how to speak with respect, to listen and actually understand, because Srila Rupa Goswami, he describes that is a loving exchange in devotional service, to hear someone in confidence and to speak in confidence. And generally, if couples understand each other, if they have this commitment and dedication to sit down, to work things out and understand each other, generally, many of the problems become either very easy to solve or they totally disappear. Because the root of a lot of problems in marriage is the fact that we don't feel understood and we don't feel loved. And when you feel understood, you tend to feel loved. And even if you don't agree, if you feel understood why you think the way you do, you can agree to disagree and still feel loved. So that takes a lot of commitment and dedication to execute that. And as Uttama was saying, that requires practice, and practice requires determination. To become proficient at any art or skill or field of knowledge, you're going to have to practice. And so especially in marriage, you have immense opportunity to practice developing those qualities.
As I was saying in the beginning, part of commitment is just accepting the person for who they are. So Srila Prabhupada has commented that if we want to stay in the association of devotees even, we need to be able to tolerate the other person's idiosyncrasies. So we were counseling a couple, and they were having a bit of an argument because he said something about, well, I just accept I have to tolerate that you're kind of a clean freak. And she was upset by that. He was like saying, well, I'm just tolerating that we're different. And she was saying, but I don't want to just be tolerated. I want to be like appreciated. So when we talk about tolerating each other's differences, it means that we also do appreciate many of the things about the other person, and we just understand that we are different, and that's okay. So tolerance isn't something nasty, like, oh, I'm just going to tolerate this, till it's time to take sannyas, not like that. But that we realize that we're just different, and we just need to be accepting of that. So a big, big part of being able to stay committed is to develop that sense of appreciation of each other.
And so these 12 principles, they're very interrelated. There's a type of synergy that flows between them. So this commitment and dedication, that means that commitment to develop a healthy relationship. And that means a commitment to apply the other principles of successful grahastha life, which is mutual respect, as she's saying, open and honest communication, as we're discussing, family love and affection. And so again, by practicing those values, the need to feel tolerant, which we sometimes experience as something onerous, by practicing the principles, that tolerance becomes tempered with love, and tolerance tempered with love, tolerance tempered with love becomes patience. And it's much more pleasant to be patient than to be tolerant. So we can develop that loving patience by practicing these principles. So we described in previous sessions how these principles and values are like a map. And in your life, there's different challenges. You know the direction you want to go towards a peaceful, productive, Krishna conscious lifestyle. And there's going to be different challenges in that path. Actually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said once, for one who is serious in spiritual life, there will be many thorns in his path. So Krishna places those thorns to help us advance. It's not that he wants us to suffer. He wants us to develop these godly qualities of love and patience and tolerance. So having that map of our principles and values imprinted in our consciousness enables us to look towards our goal, which is to become peaceful in Krishna consciousness and progress, and enable us to examine the different challenges we face and see which of these values can I draw upon in this circumstance to help me navigate that situation. So in all those situations, we can proactively respond in ways which are going to be conducive to us to becoming peaceful and tranquil and progress in Krishna consciousness. Without a vision of those values, when those challenges come, we'll literally be lost in the dark, and we can tend to become completely reactive rather than proactive. We can act in the lower modes of material nature rather than the higher modes of material nature, which are goodness and pure goodness. So goodness and pure goodness is based upon having these godly values. And that is what we want to do with our life. Because Srila Prabhupada described in Bhagavad Gita how one must practice the mode of goodness by one's activities. And this is a practical means for that process of practice.
So we need to practice the attitude of doing the actions that show commitment in our relationships.
Try to understand these 12 principles and values. You will find them on the Grihastha Vision Team website. There is a Russian section, and they are listed there. And they're also contained within a book that's available in Russia, The Heart and Soul Connection, which describes the ways in which you can practically apply these principles in your life.
So thank you very much for joining us
Thank you.
today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.